In this Theorycraft video, I'll be going over a Fire Staff build that focuses on applying burns to gain buffs while weaving your heavy attacks between your abilities to sustain yourself and to reduce your cooldowns. We'll be taking a look at the weapon and gear perks, gems, attributes, and finally the Fire Staff skill tree. First, we'll be taking a look at some gear perks. These are perks that I would like on my armor pieces if I can get them, and they will be really valuable for this build. So let's dive into the gear perks. For the Fire Staff, I want Keen, Vicious, and Enchanted. Most of these gear perks will allow you to do more crit damage, or it will allow you to do more damage with your basic attacks. For the armor, I chose Refreshing, Efficient Burnout, and Empowering Fireball. All of these will help you to do more damage and to sustain yourself. Moving on to our jewelry pieces, for the amulet I chose Divine, Health, and Refreshing. This will just help us to boost our defense a little bit more, make ourselves a little bit more tankier. For the earring piece, I chose Refreshing Toast, Mana Toast, and Focus. This will mostly buff our potions since we will gain cooldown on our potions and will gain some mana with Mana Toast. And finally, for the ring, this is where we get some of our damage, which is fire damage, keen awareness, and siphoning. Fire damage will just boost our fire damage with the Fire Staff, obviously, and keen awareness will give us more crit, and the Fire Staff scale really well from crit because it does have a couple of passives that does give it more crit chance. Next, we will be diving into the gems to see what gem you can equip on your Fire Staff and what gems should you equip on your jewelry pieces and armor pieces. For your Fire Staff, there's really only two gems that I saw that you can equip. It's either an emerald or an opal. For example, the emerald will give you more damage to targets that are below 30% health, and the opal will give you more damage after a dodge when your stamina isn't full. I didn't really find anything else that would synergize nicely, so this is what I would go at the moment. For my armor, I like a balanced approach, so I always take a malachite gem on 4 pieces of my gear, and the other 4 pieces I take diamond gems because they will give you a balance of physical and elemental damage. You do have 8 slots on your gear when you can put 4 of each of these gems. Now that you know some of the gems that I would slot into this build, let's dive into the attributes and see what is optimal to spec into. For the attributes, you really only have a couple of choices. You can either go Intelligence or Constitution. Ideally, you want both because Intelligence will boost your damage and Constitution will make you a little bit more tanky. Ideally, you want to go 50-50% into both since you will get the most value per attribute if you keep it 50-50%. But I like to go a bit more into Intelligence since if you have a Fire Staff, you probably want to do a bit more damage than have survivability. So I go into Intelligence a little bit more than Constitution, but it's all up to you, whichever you prefer. Skill tree is really what makes a build really good. It's basically where you get the most flexibility and where you can choose some passives and abilities that you can use. So let's take a look at what I have for the Fire Staff build skill tree. For this Fire Staff build skill tree, I decided to color code a couple of passives that will really synergize nicely with each other. First, let's take a look at our heavy attacks and passives that will buff our heavy attack. The first one is Spell Focus. This will give us mana back on our heavy attacks. Really good. And the next one that buffs our heavy attack is this one. It will just give us some cooldown reduction on our abilities. Here it says 10% on hit with a heavy attack, which is really nice to get your spells back up after you use them. And then finally, we take the flare one at the bottom here. This will just allow our heavy attacks not to consume mana, which is really nice for the spell focus since we'll gain 5% mana back on every heavy attack. For the green ones, these passives are passives that will buff our damage. For example, they'll give us crit. So for this one will give us some critical strike damage increase, which is really nice since we do go into a lot of crit on our gear. So this one is really nice as well. And the next one, Spell Slinger, your abilities gain an extra crit chance. So this is really nice as well since we will have some crit damage on our build as well. So having more crit on our abilities is always welcome. Moving on to the next one, we have this one. This one will just give us empowered whenever we are above 50% mana. So we want to try to stay there with our heavy attacks that we can do for this one. We want to try to stay there above 50% mana so that we can gain that empower, which will boost our damage by 10%. Next, we also have one in the Pyromancer tree, which is Pyromania, which will also give us some extra damage when we dip below 50% health. It's quite a big damage increase. It's a kind of like 20%, so really nice as well. These are all the damage increasing passives. So moving on to our burning passives that will allow us to gain some buffs when we apply burn. So the first one is Let It Burn. We'll gain Fortify whenever we apply a burn to a target, which is really nice since we will be able to apply a burn constantly to our target if we do a light attack. So 10% damage decrease is really nice. Plus we'll get about 3% weapon damage increase every second, which will basically add up over time. So this is really nice as well. We'll always have a burning target if we light attack them. For the abilities, I basically chose Fireball, Incinerate, and Burnout. I like Fireball more than Pillar of Fire. Since Fireball is a quick cast, this one you actually need to aim, so it's not ideal for me. I really like Fireball over Pillars of Fire or Pillar of Fire, so I really like Fireball instead of that. Just a nice damage spell, which is really good. The Incinerate is really good for pushing away your targets when they get close, and you have a passive that will heal you for 20%. Really nice as well. I just went down a little bit more so that it can hit twice so that I can heal for a bit more. And then of course Burnout. No Fire Staff build is complete without Burnout. It's just really good for escaping your opponent. Plus you can just burn through opponents and then put them on fire, which is really nice as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe for weekly videos.